Hello, whisperers. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy tonight's tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps more than you know. Now, dim the lights, and let's begin tonight's story. 72 hours later, we were already standing in Russia. The cold hit different here. Alaska felt brutal, but this cold felt intentional, like the land wanted to erase anything warm that stepped into it. Wind kept hammering sideways across the tundra, sharp enough it made my eyes tear and freeze at the corners. Dalton kept bumping my shoulder every few steps, more for himself than me. He whispered, half muffled under his balaclava, "You ever get tired of being cold before the monster even shows up?" I was tired before we even boarded the helicopter. Mercer walked in front of us, quiet, calm like always. Head low, rifle relaxed, breathing even. I used to think he never felt fear. Now I think he just learned how to hold it differently than normal people. A lone rusted entrance hatch sat in the snow ahead. Soviet-era bunker door, half buried and cracked open like something inside forced it outward from sheer pressure or starvation. Colonel Demidov, our Russian liaison, waited there with two soldiers. No smiles, no small talk, just a nod and a gesture downward. The bunker interior was darker than the woods in that first vamp hunt, concrete walls dripping meltwater, old Soviet lab signage peeling like dead skin. NV goggles didn't help. They just made everything feel more haunted and claustrophobic. The air tasted stale but warm, like body heat had been trapped in here way too long. We passed bones first, not piles. Stacks, like a pantry for things that didn't care how organized death was, only that it was available. Dalton tapped a femur lightly with his boot and whispered, "This wasn't a bear." Mercer crouched. Gloved fingers hovered near the bone, but didn't touch. These were cleaned, old, some broken after death. "What breaks bones after death?" Dalton asked, voice shrinking. Mercer didn't answer. We pushed deeper. The bunker design stopped being symmetrical. The hallways branched irrationally, like termite tunnels. And then we heard it. Click, 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 click. Not random, not constant. Patterned like speech in a language built from hunger. My throat closed up. That sound felt too much like the vampire scream in 1988. But this was colder, faster, smarter. We stopped at a vertical shaft where another corridor met a drop into darkness. Demidov pointed down silently, face pale, like he wished this was someone else's job. We heard movement below, feet, hands, claws dragging lightly for balance, not grip. Something down there was already awake. Then it moved fast, so fast the sound blurred into motion. One pale-stretched arm shot halfway up the shaft, tendons like steel cables under nearly translucent skin, and scraped the concrete hard. Dalton almost fired, but Mercer grabbed his barrel and shook his head. Not yet. A faint, wet exhale rose from below. Not breathing, something closer to sniffing through bone. I felt my whole body start shaking before I even realized I was afraid. I didn't beat fear. I just learned to function while drowning in it. Then the clicking echoed again, multiplied, deeper, dozens. This wasn't a sleeping thing we woke. This was a colony rising. Dalton whispered the words I didn't want in my brain. Luke. They were waiting for someone to come down here. The second those clicks multiplied, everything inside me went hollow, like fear was rinsing my bones out from the inside. Mercer didn't hesitate. He signaled back toward the main corridor. Slow, controlled pace. No panic. We moved like we weren't prey yet. Like rushing would break the illusion that we were still hunters. Don't run. Running turns you into food. Demidov's soldiers finally broke composure first. One of them whispered something in Russian with this high, cracked panic voice, and he stepped backwards too fast. Something pale shot up the shaft like a white eel fired from a spear gun. It clamped onto that soldier's throat with both hands. He didn't even scream, just one choking gurgle like he was trying to swallow his own voice. Mercer fired 2 rounds point blank into its skull. It didn't drop immediately. It let go slowly, almost like disappointment, like it didn't get the sound it wanted yet, and slid backwards down the shaft, dragging the soldier with it. I heard ribs breaking on the concrete wall edges as they vanished into black. The second soldier ran. Bad mistake. 2 Strigoi came sideways out of a side vent, crawling upside down along the ceiling like geckos. They grabbed him by the ankles, snapped his legs backward like snapping 2 frozen branches, and pulled him screaming into the dark. Dalton froze. I grabbed the back of his plate carrier and yanked him against the wall beside me. Move, I whispered, but my voice broke like my body forgot how to command air. We fell back toward the central hub, the intersection point where the Soviet lab modules split out. We hit cover, and Mercer tossed a tiny UV flare across the hallway in front of us. It burst into a violent violet bloom that washed the concrete with ghost light. The Strigoi shrieked instantly, the kind of shriek that didn't sound mammal. It sounded like steam escaping a pressure vessel. They didn't rush the UV barrier. They learned from it in seconds. They spread wider. They fanned out. They began using other tunnels. Fast, intentional. They're not animals, Dalton whispered, breath shaking like static. Mercer nodded once. This isn't a population. This is a society. The clicking began again from every tunnel around us, different pitches, layered, like they were assigning roles, directions, strategy. I wanted to vomit and collapse and disappear at the same time. If the colony thinks, if they coordinate, we aren't fighting wild animals anymore. We're fighting predators that share information faster than we can aim. Mercer checked his charges pouch. Blast chamber? Dalton said. Yes, Mercer answered. We collapse the primary nest, then fight the remainder on the surface. The cold will kill most. We kill the rest. We started moving again, slower, rifles up, back toward that broken central blast testing room where the steel ring supports still curved around the ceiling. This would be our kill box. The Strigoi stopped clicking. Total silence hit so hard my ears felt wrong. Dalton whispered, "They're letting us move." Mercer nodded. "They want us where they want us, which just so happens to be where we need them." I felt my chest tighten again, like I just realized monsters don't have to be smart to win. They just have to be hungry in the right direction. We stepped into the blast chamber, and that silence broke all at once, not with shrieking, but with dozens of pale hands slowly creeping over the ring of upper vents like spiders peeling out of cracks in a coffin lid. The colony wasn't charging, they were surrounding, trapping, testing how fear sounded right before we broke. Mercer shoved a charge brick in my hand without looking away from those vents. "Luke, center seam. You place it. Dalton covers. On my mark." Dalton lifted his rifle. His voice was barely breath. "This is going to be the worst hunt yet, isn't it?" I swallowed hard. I've known that since Alaska. I ran for the center seam and the blast chamber floor like my body was piloting itself. My heart wasn't even beating right anymore. It felt like a jittery electric fuse half blown. The Strigoi didn't drop immediately. They wanted to savor this. They wanted the moment right before the break. Dalton laid down precise bursts not to kill them, but to slow the approach. Mercer held the rear corridor with short, single shots, everyone placed exactly where motion would next be. He didn't yell. He didn't panic. He didn't even breathe loud. "Luke," he said softly, while firing, "place the charge." I slapped the incendiary gel into the seam until I felt it settle like glue between steel and old concrete. I armed it, pinned the safety lever down with my thumb. "Don't let your hand shake. They like when you shake." I looked up. The Strigoi began dropping from the vents like white bodies in slow motion, not rushing now, coming down, savoring panic like it was seasoning. One landed so close I could smell stale blood on its skin. Its joints cracked soft and wet as it recalibrated its stance, like pain was joy. It reached toward me. Dalton put 2 rounds through the side of its jaw. It stumbled, torso spinning, not dead, but off balance enough. Mercer stepped forward 1 pace, not backward, and gave the quietest nod in my direction. There was no time to think. I thumbed the detonator. The chamber floor jumped upward like the earth convulsed. Fire belched sideways out of the seam like the bunker itself spat napalm. The entire room flash ignited, a roaring white-orange blast that turned every dry molecule into incandescent heat. The Strigoi shrieked as one, a single colony scream, until the roof supports failed and the ceiling collapsed inward, crushing them under molten steel and concrete like a burial from hell itself. Dalton grabbed my arm and yanked me toward the exit tunnel just before the floor tilted. We sprinted blind through black smoke, coughing, choking, slipping across old Soviet rifle casings embedded in the floor. Mercer stayed last, shoving us forward until he finally dove out behind us. The blast door buckled, screams faded under the collapse, the ground settled, and then silence. Not comfortable silence, not relief, just the absence, like the world forced everything back into dead quiet. We waited there in the corridor, breathing each other's breath, because there was no fresh air left. Finally, Mercer stood. He wiped soot off his gloves, slow. His voice cracked once. "It's done." Dalton flicked a look over at me. "Russia sucks." I laughed. I didn't mean to. It just came out broken and tired. We weren't supposed to do this kind of thing for a living. But here we are anyway. Extraction was quiet, miserable. The sky outside didn't even look like sky, just darkness pretending to be air. Snow drifted across frozen steel like nothing happened down below, like no one died here, like no colony ever lived here. I left that place feeling like my bones weren't mine anymore, like fear lived inside me now, not attached to me. And part of me knew this wasn't even close to the end, because Mercer didn't say good job. He didn't say we'll rest. He didn't even say we survived. He just said this: "Luke, Command already has intel on something worse, but this one won't be cold. This time it's fire country. I don't know where that means yet. I don't know what creature thrives in fire instead of frost. But I have a feeling I won't like the answer."